Good evening and welcome. This is Simply Frank, and I'm back from covering a campaign trail of the politicians. Very interesting. Tonight, we look at issues pertaining to governance and elections. My guest is Faides Tembatemba, who is the executive director of Actionaid, a very important institution in terms of promoting good governance. Good evening and welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you, Simply Frank.
You look great. No stress like what the politicians are going through.
No stress. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's been a good year.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
It's been a good year.
3 weeks, before the elections, what have you observed in your individual capacity and heading a civil society?
I think it's been a shocker for most of us, personally for me, because what we thought and what I anticipated was that there's going to be voter apathy, and that probably the elections will be, the campaigns will be a bit difficult. People will not turn up. But then I think just listening and watching what has been happening in the past weeks, it's been quite shocking and surprising, and that people are speaking freely. They are not scared. And also just seeing, we never saw this coming. I mean, we saw how fragmented the opposition were, and we all said there was no opposition, if you remember. But I think, Simply Frank, I would say that Makebi and Mundwili has shocked all of us. We don't know what's going on, but I think everybody is shocked because we all said there's no opposition.
Let's look at the governance issues leading to where we are today. Fridays, the amendment of the Constitution, rushed electoral act, introduction of so many new members of parliament, proportional representative, all that. Where you stand, where you sit there, what was going through you when this process started?
We were quite disappointed. Personally, I was disappointed because I remember vividly in 2022, the president said he was not going to amend the Constitution. That was not one of the things he was going to do. I think he echoed clearly that he was interested in trying to revamp the economy of this nation. And I think his focus was around economic transformation and also just ensuring that we pass through the debt issues. And clearly, I think he started on a very good note. I think he really focused. I remember having been part of some of the civil society actors that attended some of the meetings and negotiations and all. And the president was really geared to ensure that we try to have a debt treatment and in putting in place systems. And I think 2022 was quite amazing, and all of us were really applauding the president. Then 2023, 2024, I think we saw a huge, I think we saw a shift, a huge shift in terms of certain pronouncements that were made by the president. But also, I think it's also bad publicity. We've, in the last 4 years, we've suffered bad publicity from the government. We don't know who is the government spokesperson. In the last regimes, I think it was very clear who the spokesperson is for the government, who speaks for the government, and what they are telling the Zambian people. In this government, we never knew who the spokesperson was. And I think that's where they lost it. Communication was so poor. And then Bill 7 came on board. Poorly communicated.
Yeah.
The process was haphazard. And I think I saw government fighting people and the civil society. And I think that's where they lost it, Frank.
Why was it so important, to the government, that, Bill 7, goes through when there were so many contentious, issues? Our own courts threw it out.
Yes.
That there wasn't a consensus, there wasn't, enough consultation. But the government still ignored that, ignored their own institution.
Exactly. And I remember the president in his inaugural speech saying he was going to defend the Zambian constitution. I think we can get back to the inaugural speech and just look at some of the commitments the president made when he was inaugurated as the Republican president. I remember when we were Bill 10, UPND was up in arms with the civil society.
Yeah.
We rejected that bill. We made sure the referendum did not pass. And there was a huge celebration at Community House.
Yeah.
Then to see the president shift in such a manner against all odds and made sure that Bill 7 gets to Parliament was a shocker. Actually, it did not start with Bill 7.
Yeah.
It started with the NGO bill, 2025 NGO bill, and it brought all NGOs together, and we did a pushback up to Parliament, and fortunately it was sent back to the Ministry of Community Development. So it's on the table, it's still waiting. We don't know the surprise we'll have after the elections. But then Bill 7 came, and what they told us was Bill 7 was not contentious.
Yeah.
But honestly, every article in the Constitution is contentious because it's something to do with governance. And I think for civil society and for probably the larger population would have loved to see the president introduce the Bill of Rights, because I think that was our expectation. We expected that probably if there's going to be any constitutional amendments, the Bill of Rights is going to be one of the top on the list. But then that fell off. And I think maybe we were speculating that maybe the president's interest was the delimitation. And that's what they wanted to see. And probably maybe it was because people had a lot of reservations on the delimitation. We had a delimitation exercise in 2019, and the report was not released. We were also wondering, why do another process when there was another process? Because this is one government. But then I guess he really wanted the delimitation. I don't think a proportional representation was his interest. Because first and foremost, our president has not been very keen around gender inclusivity and gender mainstreaming. The first thing he did when he gets to government, he had introduced other ministries and he de-established the Ministry of Gender. He told us that he told everybody concerned to say gender was the top on this list and it's going to be managed within State House. But then what we have seen in the last 5 years is reduced funding for gender programming. I don't think in all the pronouncements, the speeches, even just the programming, we can clearly say there has been gender inclusivity and gender mainstreaming. Even his political appointments, we have not seen that political will for him just to appoint women or young people. So it was quite disappointing for us because we thought that when he said the gender division, the department will be directly under his office. We would have loved to see a lot more of resources channeled within that department. But even the permanent secretary who's there, I don't think she's administrative and she has a budget. I think she's more of technical permanent secretary. And therefore, I doubt if really she was responsible. She had a particular vote or particular budget that she was controlling as an institution. So for him to talk about proportional representation, for me, I think it was just something that he thought would excite the women folk. Because remember, Frank, when you look at our population in Zambia, 51% of this population are women. And when you look at the voter, maybe the voter statistics, it clearly indicates that more voters are women than men.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, and I think probably that's some of the things the politicians would want to excite women. But we are learning as women as well, and would not want to be used in political circles because they think we are the tool they can use. And so for me, I think it's a big lesson. It's a huge lesson for politicians going forward that you don't make pronouncements that you are not able to commit to and implement.
The next thing, question, I should have declared my interest because I must confess I was very close, to HH. Like I've been very close to almost to the president. I've served all the presidents. He's a man, very educated, successful, businessman, over 20 years in opposition, and he gets a chance, and he promises, heaven, voted, unanimously, and then he gets into power. Yes, he's done some good things, but he is not listened, to the voice of reason in many occasions. Parliament has been reduced to rubber stamp. Let me just say all the other arms of governance. How did he arrive, here? I must confess it took me by surprise. How did he arrive here? Or is it the usual performance of presidents when a president looks at the Constitution, Faides, and discovers there's just too much power vested in the president? Could that be the reason?
That could be another reason, Frank, because, we heard it from Chiluba. He clearly stated power is sweet. Yeah. So it's to the extent in which power gets to your head. I want to believe that leadership in that capacity is more of servanthood. And if people begin to understand and probably begin to resonate with what leadership is all about, with removing all the power and all, I think it gets us to a place where we begin to reflect why we're leaders. Power gets to your head, even at the simplest leader in a community, even just me as a country director. There are certain times you feel you are so powerful, but honestly, are you powerful? You are there as a leader to serve. And so we were all surprised, we were all shocked. And for me, it's just some of the things that the president has said publicly that has shocked me, because I think those are some of the last things that we expect the president to say. We sometimes expect a decorum of diplomacy when you are relaying certain information. And also, it's in the manner in which, the downside, I think, is the manner in which they rushed most of the legal reforms. I think in the last sitting, there were 77 pieces of legislation on the floor of Parliament.
To be passed in 10 days.
To be passed in 10 days. Surprisingly, the president himself sent back the public gathering bill. When Parliament passed the public gathering bill, so many questions, unanswered questions. Secondly, it's about, I think, the people that surround presidency. This is why the president, I think, as leaders, we need to be very careful because it's not everyone who surrounds you, who advises you, who has good intentions. Some of them do it for their own selfish reasons. And so goes with the people that were communicating, some of the things they were saying. I would give an example. There were times, I think the time that we had floods and there was long load shedding hours. And I remember one of the leaders coming up and saying on media, yeah, why are you complaining? Why don't you buy solar?
Yeah.
And I was asking myself a question, how much is solar? Is it cheap really? Okay. Secondly, I think there was an issue of high cost of meal. And one of the leaders came and said openly, why don't you start using raw life breakfast? It's expensive.
Yeah.
Are those the right words to say to the people that put you in power? So it's the simple things like that. People feel neglected. But I think the last straw was the Cybersecurity Act. Yeah. Because then people had to stop complaining. Because whoever complained was either arrested, was harassed. If you go on social media, I mean, most of us have been harassed before. You're on a TV program like this, you state, you speak, you are accused of being a politician, a cadre, whatever. Some people even get to you private, they get to your private life. And the cyberbullying, we expected the government, if the intentions of enacting the Cybersecurity Act was good, then they should have been partial around or impartial around who is saying what and who should be arrested. Because we saw a number of opposition people being arrested, civil society actors being arrested, media people being arrested. But then we saw that most people that were saying all sorts of things from, at one point we witnessed cadres insulting the late president, Edgar Lungu, in his face, and none of the people were arrested. So it's, for me, that I'm sitting, I'm thinking, okay, so that act, it was meant for who? What was the intention? Was it to stop people from speaking their mind because of the high cost of living, because of, just all these recent happenings? So I think it's a lesson to all the leaders. When you have good intentions for people, I think check the people who are also advising you, and also what your intentions are for your leadership. Quite okay, the president meant well. When you listen to his campaign messages in the last couple of years that he was in the opposition. And that's the reason why all of us, went and voted for him. We said, look, here is somebody who means well for this nation, and we need to give him a chance and an opportunity. And he came, and we had high expectations because he promised haven. So maybe politicians should not promise, because I would say, Frank, leadership is not easy. It's not easy. As a leader, I think there's a lot that goes on. I think we've seen in the last year President Hichilema actually confessing to say leadership is not easy. But when we speak from the other lens, it looks like it's just, pressing buttons and things go. But I don't think it's easy to manage and govern 20 million plus people.
In the past, like I've said, I've covered a lot of elections. In the past, it took something, for the civil society to stop, voicing out. But this time around, even you were a victim. You raised a number of, issues, but your diversion, views were, in the end, dwarfed. Was it a question of saying, you know what? We have tried. We simply have to just give up. Did you get to that, our situation as civil society, including the church? They just switched off.
I don't think it would be prudent for us to give up, because that's part of our mandate. For like Actionaid, we're rooted in campaigning. We're an advocacy organization. I'm not the first country director in Actionaid that has been vocal around governance issues. Way back, as far as Pamela Chisanga, Pamela was even more vocal than any of us. And so that's how we are structured as an institution. One of our values of Actionaid is courage of conviction. And so we state things as they are, because we are not just speaking. if you look at how Actionaid has transformed from the time that Actionaid was established here in Zambia, not only here but globally, we are a federation of 44 countries. We believe in people power, and so we engage a lot with communities. We do a lot of work even with government in different communities. We've constructed schools, we've constructed clinics before, we've dug boreholes, so we understand all these issues and we interact more with the people and the young people. I would say that I think NGOs or civil society are structured differently. There are those involved in service provision, and there are those that are involved in advocacy work and in governance. There are those that are involved in the health sector and they run with the health issues. And so there are a number of factors why I think civil society, probably people might view that civil society have given up. We have not given up. There are times that we all get together and push one agenda, and it might seem like it's one person, but we are all there. Like we cluster ourselves, and we are saying we are running with this agenda, and this is the organization that is going to lead us. But then also, I think there have been a number of issues within the civil society space. There's been reduced funding. And sometimes people think it's just speaking. No, we don't just wake up and begin to speak. We do a lot of analysis that informs our advocacy. We also get to appreciate and understand what people are saying. So when you travel to a community, we hear what people are saying. You package that information. When you get back, then you make those as advocacy messages. And so there's also been, the landscape has been shifting. There's been reduced funding, and advocacy is very expensive. So we've seen that there's been a reduced funding, and so what we're doing is we are working more as a consortium, just to ensure that we leverage on the little available resources there is. So we're hoping that we could probably shift to a different space where we become more independent as civil society actors, so that our voice is more objective. Sometimes it's the kind of funding that you have and the kind of probably donor that you have. Sometimes we try to respect the guidelines and the requirements of the donors, and therefore we find ourselves probably more inclined to what the project is all about, as opposed to getting to speak, because most of the donors actually have long-term agreements with government. And so this is the reason why probably you see that sometimes civil society will be at a peak, sometimes will not be at a peak. It's not that we are compromised, no. It's just, I think, the shift within the space and the sector.
Before we talk about, the elections, you and the government, you're both serving the people for the good of the people, especially uplifting the standards of the people. But you differ, and there's nothing wrong in terms of differing, but the government suspects you, as quote unquote the enemy. Where does the problem lie when both of you are serving the people, and you're there to, like I've said, to uplift the standards of the people?
That happens, Frank, when the government does not want to probably take I would say sometimes we would want to be very honest and state things as they are. And probably government thinks they are doing the right thing. So when they oppose the views of civil society, then they will view civil society as an enemy. I'll tell you that on many fronts, we've worked with the government very closely. I mean, the work that we do at community level, we've worked with district officials who are part and parcel of the government. We've sat on a decision-making table with government. But I think governments in, governments out, we've seen that the government leaders don't like to be criticized. Whether it's a positive criticism or negative criticism, I think they take criticism very negative, and it becomes personal. And I think that's where the problem lies. Because if they take some of the criticism in good faith, I think probably they would have had an opportunity to listen to what the people are saying, because civil society, a person like me can't just wake up and begin to say certain things. I mean, I'm also within a confinement of an institution that has, rules and regulations. So what government needs to understand is we also have a people we represent. And so when we come to speak to government, it's because there's a voice that is telling us to speak on their behalf. So we are a voice, and government should give us an opportunity to listen. We do not want to criticize government because we are part and parcel of this government. Government is a key stakeholder, just as we are a key stakeholder to government. It's just the aspect of where I think as a people, we have a tendency of not wanting to be criticized.
Right.
We always want to be praised, even when it's not necessary. Sugar coating. And I think this is where we get it wrong. Because I've seen that a number of times that we've gone out to criticize government, we've been called names. A number of times where we've sat and said, you know what, you've done very well. And government has been there clapping, and they'll call you for their meetings and they'll praise you. But life should not be like that. Even at individual level, if you're a person that does not want to be criticized,
right,
I think there's a possibility that you might fail.
Let's talk about something which is very close, to you, and that is, economic development and vis-a-vis social delivery. This government, has been, talking about, boasting, maybe it's a very strong word, but they've been talking about the 4% plus economic, achievement. But this does not relate to cost of living, which is very high, and you just cannot understand economic achievements, economic indicators, all very positive, but translation into cost of living, they just cannot tally. Were you there working with the people? What are you seeing? Where is the problem? Why is cost of living so high, not relating to the achievements that have been, made by the government?
Thank you, Frank, for that question. It's a $1 million question. And I've seen, and I've watched you closely. You've asked that question to even many of the economists. And that's probably, it's a question we need to unpack, all of us, because what you are saying is actually the reality. And I would say that this government has done very well in terms of putting in place certain systems economically. And rightly so. I think we've seen the government really being more, this government has been very frantic and also very positive around engaging the private sector from the onset. And that's one of the questions I've also been asking some of the, I remember one time I had a conversation with Trevor Hambai, and I was like, you're one of the renowned economists, Trevor. Can you just explain to me in simple terms? I'm not an economist, but please, can you help me understand what is really happening? If we're talking about this 4% GDP increment, why is it that this is not translating into things that, tangible things that we can see, and people don't understand numbers. We need, when you talk about economics, I think even all these good things that people talk about, we need to look at it from a human cost of it. Are people happy? How much is milli meal? How much is sugar? Okay. Generally, if I'm a civil servant, I work in ShopRite. I have a 2,000. How much will I spend in just getting the essential commodities, not luxuries, Frank, essential commodities. And so, like you are saying, it's even worse off in rural areas. Frank, it's worse off in rural areas. Life, generally, the cost of living is quite high. And so I cannot unpack the stats that you're talking about, because I'm still also asking the same question to say, why are we saying here it's looking positive, but as the ordinary citizens cannot enjoy the benefits
Yeah.
of having an increased GDP or
Yeah.
the positive economic outlook that we are talking about. I had an opportunity to attend one of the meetings, and I think is this Francis
Yes.
Chipimo?
Chipimo.
Dr. Francis Chipimo
Yeah.
was explaining. I still could not relate. I was at the trade fair. I went
Yeah.
through the Bank of Zambia pavilion. I asked a lot of questions. And I'm asking on behalf, because I'm a citizen. I live in Zambia. I live in these communities. I buy from the same shops that everybody else buys from.
Yeah.
It's really not making sense to anyone. The cost of living is high.
Yeah.
And no one can explain to us why the increment in the GDP cannot be translated into simpler things that people can understand, to say this is what it means and therefore here are the benefits. So because of this is what is going to happen. Currently what we are seeing are political pronouncements. No, now milli meal will reduce, no fuel will reduce, but generally, is this as a result of the 4% increment in the GDP?
There comes the million question that I am going to ask you. When you said, as head of the civil society, which is very close to the people, how is this issue of high cost of living going to resonate with the electorate? What do I mean? The government has now admitted that that is the elephant in the room. How does the government of the day convince the electorate that yes, we fell here? How do they convince the electorate that we can actually address it? Meanwhile, the opposition is raising the same issue. Who convinces who in terms of addressing that? And generally, when you sit in your individual capacity, head of this a civil society, how do you reconcile this?
It's difficult to reconcile, Frank. It's difficult to reconcile, and the analysis and just the sentiments from the electorate is that, this is rhetoric. And I think that's where this election will be more interesting, because first and foremost, we said there was no opposition. What we all failed to understand was the opposition were the electorate and not the political parties. Okay? And so now I think the government did not see this coming. And I wish they had listened to the civil society actors when they were saying, look, can you address the issue of the high cost of living? Because times without number, over and over, we did, through statements, through press briefings, we did communicate to government about the sufferings of the Zambian people. And Zambians would not openly come out and say what was really hating them because of course, the Cybersecurity Act. But then seeing this and seeing what people are saying, I think it's quite difficult to reconcile, because it's a shocker to everyone. And I think even the same opposition are shocked. They never anticipated they will have, this. And it's also a lesson to them. Whoever wins the 13th August election needs to reflect on the voices of the Zambian people. The Zambian people are not interested in the narrations. They are not interested in the big English. The Zambian people want to see the trickle-down effects. They want to see reduced cost of living. They want to hear a language that resonates with their daily living. The realities of being a father, a mother, a graduate without a job. That's what they want to see. And so, even as they continue with their messaging, I think they need to rethink and listen to the cries of the Zambian people.
Yeah.
One of the, I get to social media and I hear some of the young people saying, we are okay, we don't care even if we have cadres. What we want is we want a low cost of living, we want jobs, we also just want respect. And I think it's one of the things that I would probably urge our leaders. Can you just respect your electorate?
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, I think the Zambian people were called all sorts of names.
Yeah.
And I think that's not right. The mandate of the leaders in office is given by the Zambian people. Your contract is signed by the Zambian people. And therefore, just a little mutual respect will go a long way.
Yeah.
Even when things are tough, it's not what you communicate. It's how you communicate what you are communicating.
Right.
Yeah? That matters a lot, Frank. We saw people getting on the podium and telling the Zambian people, maybe I don't need your vote. So why should you get back and ask for a vote if you told the Zambian people that maybe I don't need a vote?
Yeah.
I mean, why should you go to certain places and ask for votes when you accused those people of not loving you? It's not about loving you, Frank. It's about us doing our responsibility. What is your core business as a leader?
Yeah.
So we saw a fragmentation of the church, the political parties, civil society actors. As a leader, you need to always ensure that there's unity for purpose. So it's the unity for purpose that will actually get to where you want to go. So I think those are some of the key lessons. Whoever wins the 13th August election needs to respect the Zambian people. They need to understand what the issues are. Do not think on behalf of the Zambian people. Listen to the cries of the people because you agreed to represent them. The moment you asked for their vote and you got that appointment as a leader, you are going to be the representation of the people. So I think, for me, those are some of the key issues.
Yes. The rider to that, you've raised very interesting, issues there. My takeaway from your submission is that the electorate know what they want.
Yes, they do.
They want a better Zambia.
Yes.
They want better living. Let's shift from there and then talk about the key players. In fact, the key player, which is ECZ. Is ECZ providing an environment, providing a process for the electorate to make a decision which is in the interest of the electorate? Or is ECZ playing another role beyond facilitating the process, facilitating the environment?
I still want to believe and trust the ECZ that they do the right thing. Because they've always done the right thing. Because they're the ones who are given that mandate. What is just I think disappointing is the rush in the Electoral Act and the delimitation process. I think these were done backwards. I mean, just prior to this election, and then we are having all these processes. We've not taken down to see and analyze. But I think the downside also to institutions like ECZ, just like any other institution, is sometimes you want to be loyal to the person that gave you the job. And so maybe one of the lessons is to have some of these key institutions like Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission, Auditor General, ECZ, to be very independent. Probably the chief executive officers, everybody there should be probably hired on merit. Maybe they need to be applying and interviews and not them being appointed. Because sometimes, power can make you to probably get instructions that probably are not right. I'm thinking that should not be the case for now. I'm just hoping ECZ will be very objective as they have always been.
Brilliant.
I know there's a cry around what happened in Kaputa,
Yeah.
the opposition, where they suspended campaigns, and then there was the similar incident. Was it in Wengwa? And then we didn't see that. There was another incident in Mazabuka, yes, because he was an independent candidate there. There was suspension there. But what happened in is it Wengwa? We didn't hear ECZ saying.
Yeah.
And then also for me, I think the other thing that I was really disappointed was the issue of withdrawals.
Yeah.
There are candidates withdrawing.
Very disappointing.
We've never seen such kind of a thing before during elections. But also it's around how the adoption process was done in the UPND. It's a ruling party. I think I didn't anticipate to see that happening in a ruling party. They needed to have put their house in order, because that really showed a very bad example as a ruling party. And so ECZ should have been very candid on that, and they should have been very objective, and they should have sent a strong signal to all the parties around nominations, around adoption, the adoption process, but also just the campaigns. And so for me, these are lessons learned. And I think we should probably, after the elections, we need to have a platform where we could analyze, reflect, evaluate, and take this forward as a lesson learned.
Right. We've talked about, made reference to CZ, as an important stakeholder, in terms of what the electorate want. Before I ask you, as Actionaid, in your role that you're playing in facilitating this, let's talk about one standout issue here, and this is the maintenance of one Zambia, one nation, which has held us together for over 60 years. From the messages that you have been hearing, are you still hopeful that the one Zambia, one nation is still anchored on a strong foundation?
I want to believe that one Zambia, one nation is still anchored on a strong foundation, because it's not about a person. It's about the people, a collective people. And I want to believe that this is the time that the church and the traditional leaders play a very critical role. The traditional leaders have held us as a people through traditions and our culture, very diverse. And I've seen how we've celebrated our culture and our tradition. We are a country with 72 tribes. We've intermarried, and nothing can break us. So the church, the traditional leaders play a critical role. Zambia is not about an individual. Zambia is a collective of people that love each other. So I'm not going to hate my brother, Frank, because somebody from somewhere came and stood on the podium and said what they said. No, that is not going to change my view of how I look at you. So we have intermarried. We have uncles, brothers who are coming from everywhere. They are Zambians.
Absolutely.
And so we are a people, and one person's views does not change the way we live as Zambians. And I think that's the pushback, and that's the positive side to this.
Brilliant.
And for me, I think I urge the church and the traditional leaders to get back to a point where we begin to mend where we feel we've lost it.
Brilliant. I'm a very proud parent of, one son from Bemba woman, one son from an Eastern woman, one son, from a Tonga.
Yes.
There's one daughter from northern. It's beautiful.
It is.
It's a lovely rainbow, and I
Exactly.
don't want anybody to spoil these Faides.
No one will spoil that,
Yeah.
Frank, because I mean, how do I go to my auntie and say,
Yeah.
you are not my auntie?
Yeah.
I have aunties that tell me, Frank.
Yeah.
I mean, how do I go to my brother who is caught, and they say, no, because you're no.
Yeah.
So for me, church is another thing.
Yeah.
We have different people in one church coming from different regions, and we see each other as brethren.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what, for me, I think I see that as one person's view.
Yeah.
And we saw a number of reactions from everywhere. For your own information, I speak fluent Tonga. I grew up.
Excellent.
Part of my life, I was in Southern Province. My father was, you used to work in the Ministry of Agriculture, and he went around Zambia. We stayed in Livingstone, we stayed in Choma. We were like, you know how Kaunda used to transfer people here and there. I'm a colored, by the way. My dad is in Senga, my mother is Bemba.
Yeah.
You see, so how do I divide myself?
Absolutely.
Should this, instead I say, no, Bembas, whatever. So even Chimbuya for me is very difficult because my children are Bembas, and then I'm saying, so how do I?
Absolutely.
How do I? So it's those things, and so I think the people that are trying to do this do not understand how deep rooted we are as a people, and I think it's us to do the backlash and just say, you know what, we are not trading this path. We know who we are, and this is the only space we have. Yeah.
We got about 8 minutes or so to talk about post Zambia. Before we do that, what is your critical role as Actionaid and also other civil society and monitors and observers, and your expectations and how reduced funding to Actionaid and other civil society in this election are going to impact your operations?
Well, I think it's going to impact our work in that also we didn't see the delimitation coming. Frank, budgets approved in January. April, we have this delimitation process. We have more constituencies than we had planned for. But I want to believe that there's power in collaboration.
Yeah.
There's power in collaboration. Already as civil society actors, we are engaging, we are collaborating, and we are not leaving any stone unturned. And we'll do whatever it can to ensure that we deploy monitors everywhere, like always.
Yeah.
And also will depend on the goodwill of ECZ, of other key actors within the governance space to ensure that we do what we know best, to monitor, to observe, and also just to ensure that we guard our votes. I'm a voter, so I'm going to make sure that I guard my one vote and that nothing happens.
You won't tell me how you're going to vote.
I'm not going to tell you. It's my secret. I'm not going to tell you, Frank.
We will find out.
I can tell you that I'm going to guard my vote.
We will find out after the president found out how the members of parliament voted.
Exactly.
So we will find out.
Definitely find out, but I don't know how possible is that because we have over 8 million, close to 9 million voters.
Yeah.
So let's see. But I know for sure that we have the AU observers, the EU observer mission, the SADC observer mission. Then we have the church mother bodies, very key for reconciliation and all. And ECZ, we've never ever doubted the capacity of the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Quite recommendable job. It's a huge task, but I think they've never ever failed us. ECZ has never ever failed us, and they will not fail us. And so this is not the first election, Frank. We've seen elections. I mean, I'm glad that 1991, even though I was not eligible to vote, I witnessed. So we've seen elections come, elections go. We've seen by-elections, and ECZ has never failed us. We give them a benefit of doubt, and we know they are up to the challenge. And so far, the preparations are good. The engagements and the consultations, and I think we've been engaging with ECZ, quite a commendable job. This is why I'm saying that we can differ from the
Yeah.
silos, but we know how we roll when it comes to work. So
Yeah.
ECZ is definitely not going to fail anyone. They have been very objective
Yeah.
in the way they have conducted the elections. I mean, this is not the first election they are conducting, so we can. Every Zambian citizen can give ECZ a benefit of doubt because this is not the first election they are conducting.
Yeah, before my final question, let me just mention that I'm in a very unique position because I got, I think, 50% of my relatives, and in critical leadership, 50% are with UPND. 50% are in opposition. Yes. So I tell them that although I'm your relative, I cannot take a position because I'm a journalist.
Yes.
So I cover myself from that in a point of view.
Yes.
My final question is actually related in a way, to that. In your final submission, take on board your expectation of a Zambia post, elections, and talk directly into which camera is this camera.
This camera.
Yeah, address yourself to all the stake, holders and Zambia as a whole.
Frank, I'm a very proud Zambian.
Yeah.
Honestly speaking, because we are known for peace. No election has failed us. And therefore, post-election, I want to see the same Zambia that I've always known, and that politicians who walk past this, it's been a very difficult time for everyone. But I think we are stronger together, Frank. And I know that each and every Zambia, every voter there is busy cleaning their voter's card and their NRC to go and vote. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we've done away with cadarism.
Yeah.
So we say, and we do not want to see any confusion on the polling day. We are hopeful that will be one of the most peaceful days. And then post-election, like presidents have done, whoever takes the day, you are doing it for the Zambian people. This is not a competition.
Yeah.
This is about service. So no one is competing, Frank. These leaders have given up their time, their life to serve the Zambian people, and therefore whoever takes the day, this is the service you are pledging to the Zambian people. And the first thing I believe they will do is to unite the Zambians after the elections. I know we've said a lot of hateful things to one another, and I know that some people are angry, but this will pass. We've been through this process before, and it's never been this bad, but I believe that this is part of the process. A process comes in different ways. Sometimes we are very predictive, but sometimes we can be unpredictable. But I believe that we'll get stronger together, and therefore every Zambian has a right to ensure that we defend our democracy and that we choose the leader we want to lead us in the next 5 years. And therefore you have that right, and nobody is going to stop you doing that. I think we get stronger when that's the only voice we have. Remember, we are giving a contract to somebody we want to work for us in the next 5 years. And therefore, please, every Zambian, this is the only time we exercise that right. And therefore, wake up in the morning, go and vote. We come back, whoever takes the day, takes the lead in providing leadership and service to the Zambian.
Brilliant. My favorite, closing, time. This one I love, being a son of a reverend and a Christian,
and talking to somebody who's been at Rema.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yes. All right. Then this is very appropriate to
exactly.
You. When we close and leave the studio, Faides, and outside you meet Jesus.
Yes.
Wow, I would love to be part of that. What conversation would you, engage yourself, with Jesus?
I'll tell Jesus to forgive us of our sins. We are good people, and I'll tell you, Frank, even in this election,
Yeah.
Jesus is in it. Yeah. And Jesus is in this process. And this is why I'm saying we'll pass through this process. Remember, Zambia was declared a Christian nation. So Jesus is interested in this election and is interested in the warfare and the affair of the Zambian people. So I would say that whatever we say, Jesus, we still are your children. And please grant us forgiveness and grant us the unity that we've always known as a Zambian people.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure too.
Thank you. I enjoyed that. My guest on, Simply Frank, Faides Tembatemba, Executive Director and Country Director for Actionaid in Zambia. She's been my guest on Simply, Frank. Like I keep on, saying, do your best and God will do the rest. Thank you for watching. This program will be repeated on 5FM Thursday tomorrow at 18 hours. We love you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.